On this episode of Carnage, the Trolvo needs a fuel system. Last episode on Carnage, we started installing our Howtech ECU and our new pre-terminated loom. But then we discovered that our pre-terminated loom didn't connect to our old injectors. So we needed new injectors, new fuel rail, in fact, a whole new fuel system. So we've got all those parts now, so I reckon we should just hook in and get this thing running. Okay. So we've already had this manifold off just to sort out some of these vacuum ports because the Japanese love a vacuum port. So we need about half of the ones that they've had so far. There we go. And also people had a massive sook about me having the manifold on while I was doing all the welding and grinding, so I made sure I cleaned it out. I'll give it a bit of a vacuum inside the ports too, but there really wasn't much there. Alright, I'll slide this off as well. Okay. Don't feel any metal in any of them, but I'll run a vacuum through them anyway. Tiny little valves. So last episode, we had to get a new fuel rail that would suit new injectors to suit our new wiring loom. So we've done that, ordered it from Golby's, showed up to BPP, billet fuel rail. So yeah, basically it's going to be -6 in and out, and then these injectors are just 1000cc or 1150cc injectors that we had in the MX-5. We had obviously 8 in the MX-5. Now we have 6 left over. We actually had 2 decided they didn't want to play anymore. So we've got 6 left over. We thought we might as well use them in this. It'll supply plenty of fuel for this setup. So that goes into, that's our injector part of our manifold, and that basically goes in clear like that, and there's little spaces that sit there and there. So basically that bolts into there. Of course, this is bloody filthy. Check it out. So I'm just going to pop these little inserts out again, whack that in the parts washer, give it a clean up because, yeah, I hate bolting dirty parts back onto the car. So let's clean it up. Gotta say, I do love this parts washer. So I might just put that in there to soak for a little bit, get into some of the heavier greasy bits, and we'll come back and give that a good scrub and clean. Should only take 10-15 minutes. It's looking better already. You know what? This looks like a good job for Kian. Kian, do you want to come over and clean a manifold for us? Here you go. Try and give that a bit of a clean up.
Depends on my skin colour, isn't it? It's got more pressure than I thought, Jesus. So as per Scotty's request, I'm going to give this a clean up. It's, this whole car is covered in just gunk really. I don't know what the service history is like, so that's going to be interesting when we fire it up, but the gearbox, side of the engine block, all of it is just covered in oil sludge, including this intake manifold. So I'm going to clean up what we can where we can, but it's just not ideal. Yeah, it's an old engine and box, but you'd think you'd take care of it a little bit more, especially considering it probably came out of a Sora, which is a sports car. But anyway, we'll give it the love it needs, more or less. Hopefully this is a bit more brittle.
Come over and check this out. Just to prove that we actually do listen to people. And yes, we were always going to do it, but I finally put a grommet on that hole. That should make people happy. So yeah, we've done that. We've also, another thing people were complaining about was this hole, you know, oh, why didn't you re-drill through there to put your loom? Well, we put a nice little bung in there because we knew we could find one in that size. So there we go. That's all sealed up. Now we just have to run our igniter wiring through there as well. Ken's cleaning up the manifold. I've just got to work out where I'm going to mount this Haltech. That's going to be fun.
All right, so there it is, cleaned up, about as good as it's going to get for Carnage standards. The best bit is I spent all this time cleaning out the ports. They're not 100% clean, but they're better than they were. And then we're going to go bolt it to the top section, which is still full of crud. And I'm not going to clean that out because that needs to be acid bathed or something similar, because that's going to take hours and hours. There is no...
Sorry, you were saying?
I mean, I can clean out this bit, but how am I going to get in here?
You don't need to get in there, you just need to clean that part.
I can clean this off, that's fine, but I'm not cleaning the ports.
It's yours now.
Australia says no.
So I was just having a look inside to see where we're going to mount our Haltech, and I just noted something very interesting on the floor pan, and I can't even fathom why I haven't seen this before. I mean, obviously we pulled the carpet back so we could weld that hole in the firewall, but looks like we've got some more welding ahead of us, because I'm lost for words at this. Have a look at this. Check this out. I don't even know why, but they've cut this massive hole in the bottom of the footwell. I'm like, why?
I just figured it out. So this is a Swedish car.
Yeah.
So what do you do in Sweden? You park over a frozen lake and you go fishing. So you need a hole to drop your line through so you can get your frozen fish. Probably not it, but...
Probably not it, but I like it. I like your thinking.
I'm just trying to get in the head of somebody that would cut a hole
in the footwell. I don't get it. So we've got a bit of welding and grinding ahead of us. We'll probably have to do that one from inside, I think. But wow, why? Why do you do this to me? There's no reason for it. So, looks like we have some welding to do. Let's break out this bad boy, stitch it back together. Okay, we'll start off with grinding the edges, so we've got some nice clean metal to stick together. Get our safety gear on. Time to grind. Well, it's not as clean as I would like, but we'll give it a crack. I've got a damp cloth to help cool things down if anything should get too hot, and a fire extinguisher on standby. So let's see what we can do with this. Well, we can blow a hole in it. Come on. Well, this is turning into a great big pile of shit. Wow, didn't that turn into a horror show? Admittedly, I had the amperage up too high to start off with, but you know, even with it cranked down, it still kept blowing holes and I still kept having to fill them. The thing was a bit of a mess from start to finish, to be honest, but it's done now, it's fixed. And no, I am not proud of this one, but it is fixed. So let's move on to the fuel system. Okay, so down here, we've got our fuel pump mounted to this very convenient bracket, and there's a fuel filter that goes there that I've already removed. Now, if you've had any experience with performance cars in the past, especially EFI cars, there's a pump called the Bosch 044, came out of turbo Porsches, and a very popular performance pump. Now, that is not an 044, but it is exactly the same size and shape. And here we have an aftermarket version of a 044, and that will go directly into there. I love it. I love that I'm not going to have to create mounts or make mounts. I can just use the factory mount, put the pump in there, and we will have all the fuel pressure and all the fuel flow, more importantly, that we should desire. So I love it when we have a win for once. So now the wiring's disconnected. Bit of fuel in there still. Okay, that's one pump. Alright, give this a good clean up. Well, a bit of a clean up anyway. Okay, so we've done a bit of a dummy assemble on our pump setup and pump and filter setup. So basically, I've given this a bit of a clean up in the parts washer, and we're going to start mounting pump, filter, lines, do all that stuff. So we'll start locking everything up into place. I've got to say that this pump setup and just the way they mount it all is really good. So we'll just tighten up these ORB fittings on the end of the filter. Alright, so that's going to be the inlet of the pump and that's the outlet, so we're going to make sure this flows in the direction which is that way. So we're going to have it go in to the filter and then out, and then it's going to do a 180 and go forward to the car. I know it sounds a bit going backwards to go forwards, but it's just the way it's going to be. So I've already prepared this, made it the right length and everything. So dash 6 there and a banjo fitting there, so that'll just slot onto there. Don't forget our washer and the nut. Right. That's cool. And then 180 fitting will go there, thereabouts. And then we'll have our hose come in through there and basically go onto there. But that is essentially our pump setup done. So while Ken is mucking around with the manifold over there, cleaning it up, I'm going to drop this fuel tank down and see if we can access the in-tank pump and then replace the line from the tank to our new pump setup that we've already put together. Wow, how long is that neck? There we go. Alright, some wiring up here. You would have thought they'd just unplug or something, but they do not. So it must unplug in the boot. Let's have a look. So undo that earth. I'm not using this fuel line anyway, so I might as well cut it. There we go. Wow, she dirty. Oh, does not look great in there either. She needs a damn good clean. Ken! Oh yeah, that's not good. Ew. Yuck. Oh man, this thing's gonna need a serious clean out. Oh, it's ugly. So, we have had a little bit of a setback with the fuel tank. Who knew that it was going to be full of rust? Sure, this car's probably been nowhere for a long time, but like that tank was terrible. I've opened up fuel tanks that have been in Valiants that I haven't driven for 15 years and they've been a lot better than that. So yeah, that was pretty shocking. The good news is they still make fuel tanks for Volvo 240s. Yes, you can buy a brand new fuel tank for a Volvo 240. So we may have to explore that option because yeah, if that's the quality of them, it's not so good. We sent Ken down to the wreckers before to see if we could get a second-hand tank, but yeah, they punched a hole in it as the wreckers are liable to do. They like doing that. I get that it's a thing and you don't want fuel in wrecking yards in multiple vehicles catching fire and all that sort of thing, but it just means it's really hard to get a second-hand fuel tank. So we need to go buy a new fuel tank, something that's rust-free, and probably need a fuel pickup and sender that is also rust-free to go with it. So that's going to at least take us a week or two to get in, and then we can go from there. But in the meantime, we can set up the rest of the fuel system, you know, get the pumps in, get the lines in, at least up to a point, and then we can, you know, bolt the fuel tank in when it arrives. It just means everything's going to be a little bit further delayed. So I can't see this car running this episode, unfortunately. But we will persevere and keep going with it. Yes, that's what we'll do. Sound of silence. Okay, there, like so. Alright, now the outside. Alright, like so. And that is where we're going to leave things off for this episode. I know I'm disappointed too. I would love to have seen the car running this time around. But it is fighting us every step of the way. We are starting to get on top of it. We've got a whole bunch of stuff done. We're almost there with the fuel system. Finding that rusty fuel tank really put us behind. We do have a new fuel tank on order. We have a new fuel pickup and sender on order as well. They're both coming from the States and they'll be here next week. So once we get them in, we'll get the fuel system in, we'll finish plugging in the engine, and finally we'll have this thing running. But you'll see all that on a future episode of Carnage. So we have had, for fuck's sake. Wow. I's the foreman. I says when it's quitting time. All right.